Field manual for monitoring of Posidonia Oceanica seagrass meadows. In order to conduct these operations, the following is required. Self-retracting measure tape, 10 meters minimum length, with attached weights at the start of the tape. It is used for measuring transects. 40 x 40 cm quadrat for measuring the chute density, made of non-floating stainless material. It can also come in handy as a plastic measuring tape designed for construction. Echo sounder on the vessel. In case there is no built-in device, the portable one is used for finding monitoring stations. Dive computer for accurate depth measurement and for diving safety. GPS for finding and recording the exact position of monitoring stations. Plastic diving board with attached pencil. A4 size and non-floating plastic is recommended. Diving buoy with attached reel with 30 meters rope and 2 kilograms of lead in order to fix the buoy onto monitoring station. Camera to capture images of data on the surface as soon as the monitoring is done to make sure that data are not lost. Diving camera is also used to take picture of relevant aspects of the meadow. Each participant is responsible to carry his or her diving equipment, field measurement equipment, and to return it into the base. Research team leader decides who is responsible for carrying other equipment and its functioning. It is necessary to take into account the following. Reel should not be entangled. Diving board should be wiped off from previous data. In order to find the way more easily, the shim or table is usually drawn on the board in advance. One should try to place as many locations as possible on one side. Pencil attached should be sharpened, and it is recommended to attach 2 pencils to the board, or to sharpen 1 pencil at both ends, because their tips often crack. Check GPS batteries. Before sailing out, check if all necessary equipment is on board. Once reaching the site, relevant information on coastal type features and exposition, as well as potential human pressures, are recorded. These can be anchoring, mooring facilities, tourist structures, wastewater, camping area, and villages. During the first visit to the monitoring station, the person responsible for recording GPS positions should wait until divers reach the bottom and fix the buoy to the point where the action will take place. Only when buoy stops moving, position should be recorded. It is recommended to name the monitoring stations by using the previously agreed abbreviations and inform divers upon their surfacing of the measuring station name in order for it to be written onto the board. It is recommended that there is another person present on board alongside the boat operator who passes equipment, records data into GPS and informs divers of the names of the monitoring stations. Boat operator and divers have to think about the safety by clearly marking diving buoys and avoiding high season and part of the day when maritime traffic is more intensive. At the following visits, the buoy must be in the exact GPS position. The monitoring station should be approached slowly and the weight should be released only when the GPS indicates the distance to the waypoint as 0. When the position wanted has been found and fixed with the buoy, divers prepare to dive. Each monitoring station should be clearly linked to the diving pair. It is suggested that diving pairs are marked with letters and monitoring stations with numbers. For example, Group A at first monitoring station is A1, and each subsequent monitoring station that day is marked with other number, A2, A3, etc. Monitoring stations are required to have the same names in GPS device and on diving boards. The first measurements are in a deeper area. If the marking is properly conducted, after data transfer, the map will clearly show where each group had dived and which data belongs to which monitoring station. It is necessary to assess the lower limit of the meadow as precisely as possible while still on board by using echo sounder and the bathymetric maps in order to avoid searching for it when diving. Posidonia meadows in the Adriatic are mostly distributed in the depths of 25 to 28 meters. Sometimes it is possible to spot the lower limit of the meadow from the boat, but in most cases it is necessary to find the lower limit using a mask from the sea surface or by short apnea dive. In case this is not possible, the most probable location of the lower limit is taken and divers go into the sea by following the slope of the terrain. In case Posidonia is below them, they move deeper, and in case sediment is below them, they move to lower depth, having in mind the orientation. It is recommended to dive at minimal depth from which they can see the bottom and lower limit of the meadow in order to reduce the air consumption. Due to safety reasons, the first station is always at the lower limit of the meadow, and the final station is at the shallow part that is being measured. Data sampling will be quicker in case both divers have both measuring tape and a quadrant, because one diver usually finishes earlier and then he or she can assist the other diver. The first assignment after descent is determining the location of the data sampling. It is necessary to be able to recognize the lower limit of the meadow, identify the type and measure the depth with the help of diving computer. Sometimes the limit is clearly cut. However, the limit is often not clearly defined and the density of the meadow is gradually decreasing. In this case, the limit can be sparse with isolated shoots or small patches of living Posidonia, or progressive with high percentage of horizontal rhizomes. The presence of dead rhizomes, the so-called dead mat, among the isolated shoots, small patches of living Posidonia or beyond them, indicates a regressive limit. If dead mat is not evident, it is obligatory to dig with fingers into the bottom in order to ensure that it is not covered with a thin layer of sediment. In case the lower limit is very sparse, the monitoring station should be moved few meters shallower, where the meadow is more integral, but not too far away from the last shoots towards the depth. Buoy should be put inside the most integral part of the meadow and patches of Posidonia should be avoided. After that, one diver measures the shoot's density using a quadrat. The other measures the coverage of the meadow using transect and a measuring tape. It is useful to take photos of the way Posidonia looks at measuring depths, especially the lower limit. This way we get an additional insight into the appearance and state of the meadow. Buoy, as such, serves as a landmark for divers. Because of meadow density or poor visibility, it is easy to lose measuring equipment. Therefore, the position where the buoy is located can also serve as a place where divers can leave all the equipment that they will not use at that moment. Transects are measured one by one in a cross formation, with starting point at the place where the buoy is located. Transect is set by lowering the weight and unwinding and extending the measuring tape up to 10 meters in length. In case of a steeper slope of the terrain, one should take into account that difference in depth between starting and ending point of transect is not greater than 3 meters. In case this difference is greater, it is necessary to reduce the slope angle by putting the transect in a form of the so-called St. Andrew's cross. During all data sampling, the meadow should be damaged as little as possible. It is necessary to take into account the following when setting the transect. Measuring tape should be stiff and straight. In order to avoid damaging the meadow, do not drag measuring tape and weights along the meadow, but lay it down carefully instead and pick it up the same way. When winding the tape, do not drag it towards yourself, but swing towards the weight instead. The following should be taken into account when measuring the coverage of the meadow. Apply the rule of palm. If the distance between the shoots is greater than the palm width, about 10 centimeters, a change should be recorded. If Posidonia is present from 0 to 120 centimeters of transect, then you not record 0 to 120 value, you record only 120, which implies that it starts from 0. Lengths of change of bottom are rounded to 10. For example, you never write 147, you put 150 instead. Sometimes bottom cannot be seen because long leaves can hide unvegetated parts of the bottom. Then it is necessary to move the leaves by hand and check if the distance between the shoots is not greater than the palm width. In case it is greater, a change of bottom should be recorded. It is obligatory to check the bottom with a hand, in order not to substitute rocky bottom or dead mat with sediment that often covers them with a thin layer. Sometimes dead leaves lay accumulated in a certain area. In that case, the bottom cannot be seen and it is necessary to check under the leaves the nature of the bottom. Do not forget to record the starting and ending depth of transect. The following should be taken into account when setting the quadrat and counting the shoots. Quadrats are put at the sea bottom within the hypothetical circle 10 meters in radius, with the center at the spot where the anchored buoy is located. Quadrats are put randomly in a way that a diver kicks with his or her fins a few times with his eyes closed, holding a quadrat in front of him or her, and sets it down on the bottom. In case there are no shoots within the randomly put quadrat, one should move a few meters further and repeat the procedure until there is at least one shoot within the quadrat. Data sampling should be done inside integral meadow, so such situations should not happen often. A quadrat should be put in a way its sides go all the way until the Posidonia rhizomes, and that all the leaves are above the sides and do not interfere with the counting. All the shoots inside the quadrat must be counted. Shoots divided in two are counted twice. In case there is a very small number of shoots within the quadrat, it is possible to count them visually. However, in cases of poor visibility and greater shoot density, it is necessary to count the shoots using fingers. Counting is done in the simplest way if you start counting from one corner of the quadrat in a way to shift the counted shoots into your lap, while shoots that still have to be counted are at the outer side of your arms. This way, diver is always sure which part of the quadrat he has already counted and which part he or she still has to count. Posidonia shoots can be very close to each other, therefore it is always simpler and more accurate to count without diving gloves. It is obligatory to record the exact depth of each counted quadrat because it has a significant effect on the number of shoots. Sometimes quadrats contain over 100 shoots and it is not easy to count them. Diver has to be patient and thorough. Unintentional errors in counting the shoots can account up to 30%. It is important that the person who is counting is cautious, and in case he or she is not sure about the accuracy of the results, he or she should repeat the count in the same or in a new quadrat. The additional observations can be recorded during the diving activities at each sampling station, such as follows: presence of noble pen shell, presence of giant tune, presence of other seagrass, presence of invasive species, presence of potential pressures, for example, mooring systems, concrete blocks, piers, chains, ropes, trash. Presence of clear signs of damage of the meadow, for example, detached shoots, detached larger parts of mat, damages due to trawling or anchoring. Depth of upper limit of the meadow, only at shallow stations. On board, take a photo of each board filled with data collected as soon as the dive is finished in order to make sure that data are not lost. It is necessary to check the good working order of all equipment after the dive, in order for it to be in working order and ready for next data samplings. After the completion of the fieldwork, it is of utter importance to correctly and timely copy data from the boards into the database. Each diver is responsible for the data accuracy and has to make sure that all data is entered into the database. It is necessary to input data on a daily basis in order for data not to be mixed up or lost, and to be able to repeat data sampling in case some data is missing. It is recommended that two persons in pairs enter data and check the accuracy in this way. There should be a clear link between GPS coordinates and monitoring stations, and it should be checked whether GPS data is accurately recorded by reviewing it in GIS or Google Earth. In order for entering of data to be simpler, it is recommended that GPS coordinates be recorded in decimal degrees. A complex display in degrees, minutes and seconds should be avoided, or in degrees and decimal minutes. If GPS device is not set to the original WGS84 system, a clear note should be put into the database in case coordinates are in another system or projection. During fieldwork, and especially during entering of data into the computer, it is important that one person is in charge as a fieldwork team leader, and he or she should have the responsibility for the organization of the database and the preparation of the backup datasets. This person also checks the quality of sampling and the accuracy of data entering. It is necessary for at least one person experienced in Posidonia monitoring using this methodology to be present at each fieldwork data sampling, in all the phases from preparation until entering and data processing. Thus, calibration of data sampling is occurred in all the phases and also a comparability of collected data between different data samplings.